Very good morning, students, and welcome to the digital classroom of Science and Technology, Section B. Students, we are on the journey of lesson number 5 towards green energy. The lesson is quite lengthy, and the main thing is that the lesson is quite scientific, it is very technical, and we are studying the different electricity generating plants in this lesson, in which the raw material used is different, but the principle, the main concept, the steps are almost the same. That is also one of the reason why every time when I start with a new part of the lesson, I revise the previous plants, so that when the exams are there, you need not mug up the lesson, you need not mug up the different power plants, but if you understand, and for understanding, you should go through the diagrammatic representation, the ray diagrams, which play a very important part in memorizing, in remembering the content. If you remember the diagram, if you remember the diagrammatic representation, that it becomes easy for you students to explain the diagram in your own words. No need to mug up, right? I hope you are understanding. I always tell you that in bio, the diagrams play a very, very important role. And remembering the diagram, practicing the diagram is quite easy compared to mugging up the written theory, right? So every time I start with a new lecture, I always revise the previous power generation plants. So let's start for today. Of electrical energy, how the electrical energy is generated. Now, we know that the power plants are based on the electromagnetic induction, which was invented by Michael Faraday. And as per this principle, whenever a magnetic field around a conductor changes, a potential difference is generated across the conductor, and thus the generation of electricity take place. Now, the flow chart showing the generation of electrical energy. Now, first of all, we need a fuel, right, to start with the energy. So, the proper energy source to run turbine, it can be coal, it can be steam, right, it can be natural gas. So, that is the first step in the flow chart, and this in turn starts rotating the turbine. The turbine in turn starts moving the generator, and at the end the electrical energy is generated. So this is in general generation of electrical energy. In this we had studied the first thermal electric power station, where the fuel used is coal, and in the boiler the water is converted into steam, and the kinetic energy of steam starts rotating the turbine, and in turn this turbine, it starts rotating the generator, and the steam again it is allowed to condense, and it is converted back into water and sent back into the boiler. Thus this rotation of water and steam goes on, and from the generator the electrical energy is generated. So this is all about the thermal electric power station, and the flow chart which is given below, that is the conversion of energy. Chemical energy of coal is converted into thermal energy. Then kinetic energy present in the steam, it moves the turbine, and then the electrical energy is generated. The second one was power plant based on nuclear energy, where the fuel is taken in the form of the radioactive elements, that is the uranium or plutonium, in the nuclear reactor, and here the chain reaction takes place due to nuclear fission. That is the nucleus of the element, nucleus of the atom. It contains the neutrons and the protons. They are broken up, right? Then the system for steam generation from water, here also the water is converted into steam. The steam kinetic energy runs the turbine. Again the steam is allowed to condense and then it is moved back into the conversion of steam, and the kinetic energy of the turbine starts moving the generator, and in turn the electrical energy is generated. And if we see the flow chart of the energy transformation in nuclear power plant, it is the nuclear energy in the radioactive elements converted into thermal energy, then the kinetic energy in steam which rotates the turbine, and in turn the electrical energy is generated. So we had studied about these two power plants. Now the third power plant we are going to study is power generation plant based on energy of natural gas. So here the fuel is going to be the natural gas. Now here in this plant, the turbine is run by a gas at a very high temperature and pressure, which is generated by the combustion of natural gas. So natural gas is the fuel which is used. So this is the arrangement in a power plant based on energy of natural gas. Now there are three main sections in this plant. The first one is combustion chamber, where the pressurized air is introduced into the combustion chamber using a compressor, right? And then in this combustion chamber, the natural gas burns in the presence of air, right? So in this combustion chamber, the natural gas comes in contact with the air, and the gas at very high temperature and pressure is generated in this chamber, which starts running the turbine. Now this turbine, it drives the generator, and in turn the generator produces the electricity. Now how the energy is transformed from one form to another, that we will understand with the help of the flow chart. Now the natural gas has the chemical energy, right? Now this chemical energy is transformed into the kinetic energy, which is generated due to the combustion of natural gas. Now this kinetic energy is generated in the combustion chamber when natural gas burns in presence of air. So now kinetic energy is generated. This kinetic energy, it starts rotating the turbine, and then the electrical energy is generated. So this is the step by step the energy transformation in the power plant, which is based on energy of natural gas. Okay. So till now we had studied about three power plants. This is the third one, which is based on the natural gas. In the first one we had used the fuel. In the second one we had used the nuclear energy, and we had used the radioactive elements. In the third one we had used the natural gas. Now this is the picture of schematic of power plant based on natural gas. Now here you can see the fuel first. Now fuel is what? Here the fuel is natural gas. So in the first combustion chamber, the natural gas and the air is introduced, where the combustion of natural gas takes place, and the gas at a very high temperature and pressure is generated in this combustion chamber. Now this gas, it starts rotating the turbine, right? And here the emission of gases takes place, but as the natural gas, it does not contain sulfur. So the pollution compared to other power plants is very less. And then this turbine in turn starts the generator, which starts producing the electrical energy. So this is all about power generation plant based on energy of natural gas. Then there are some natural gas based power plants and their capacity in India. The place is Samaral Kota in Andhra Pradesh, where 2620 megawatt capacity of electricity is generated. Then in Maharashtra, it is Anjanvel, where 2220 megawatt of electricity is generated. Then in Delhi, it is Bhawana, where 1500 megawatt electricity is generated. And in Andhra Pradesh, it is Kondapalli, where 1466 megawatt of electricity is generated. So these are the power plants in which the fuel used is natural gas, right? Then there is certain things which you should always remember, like the use of energy is unavoidable in our day-to-day life. We cannot survive without energy. So we have to use it. It is not that we can stop using it, but we have to be very, very judicious and we have to be very, very careful whenever using the energy, because energy is something without which we are not able to survive, and we have to use it very, very judiciously. Then, is there any relation between the electrical energy generation and environment? Do you think? Yes, of course. Yes, because now in the first power plant we had seen that the fossil fuels like coal is used, right? Then natural gas is used. Nuclear fuels are used like uranium and plutonium. Now they are not eco-friendly, they are not environmental friendly. So what does it mean? It means that the electrical energy which we are generating using whether coal, natural gas or nuclear fuels, it leads to the degradation of the environment. It has adverse effect on the environment. Now let's see what are the harmful effects on the environment. Okay. The very first is air pollution. Now we had seen then it in all the three power plants where the electricity is generated, whether the fuel used is coal or natural gas or nuclear energy, the air pollution takes place. Because when these fossil fuels, they are burned, the gases are released and even the soot particles, the carbon particles are also released, which result in air pollution. Then the incomplete combustion of this fuel also takes place, because of which the carbon monoxide gas is released. And if you remember in our lower classes, we had studied about the adverse effects of carbon monoxide on our health, especially on our respiratory system, even on the plants, right? Now, if the carbon dioxide in the air increases, it is definitely going to create problem in the environment. Now, the global warming is a very good example of this. all processes which are taking place in the generation of electricity. Even the nitrogen dioxide is produced when the fuels are burned. They also result in the problems like acid rain, right? Then the soot particles or the carbon particles which are produced due to incomplete combustion of fossil fuels, they close the stomatas of the plants, and thus they have an adverse effect not only on the environment but also on the plants. So all these lead to the air pollution, and especially in human beings and animals it leads to the respiratory problems, because we breathe in air, it goes into the lungs. So the worst affected organ or the worst affected system of our body is the respiratory system. Okay, and it leads to different diseases also. It can lead to the allergy, it can lead to the asthma like problems. Okay, so this all causes the air pollution. Then second one is limited reserves of fuel. Now there are very limited reserves of fuel. uh, as you know that these fossil fuels have taken millions of years to be formed, right? And we also know that the quota or the amount of these fossil fuels is limited. They are going to consumed up, they are going to be depleted in the coming future. So we have to be very, very judicious, we know, but we have to conserve it for the coming generations also, right? And it is said that these fossil fuels will not last for more than 200 or more than 200 years or so. Max to max 200 to 300 years. Okay, so we have to be very, very judicious using these fossil fuels. Then third is accidents. The accidents which take place. Now, we had studied about the improper disposal of the waste, whether it is a nuclear waste, right, or from the nuclear power plant, it may cause the disaster. So, when we consider all these points, we can conclude that the energy generated from the fossil fuels and nuclear fuels are not eco-friendly. They are not environmental friendly. So, this is all about the adverse effect of electrical energy generation and environment, right? We had come across these problems which are faced from these power plants, whether it is the first one, that is the generation of electricity based thermal energy based power plant where the coal is used as a fuel, right? Whether it is the nuclear energy based power plant where the radioactive or the nuclear uh, fission takes place, and we know that radioactive elements are the worst elements, pollutants, because they affect the chromosome, they affect the genetic material, right? And even in the third power plant where the natural gas is used, some or the other harmful gases are emitted from the power plant. So these are the drawbacks of the electric energy generation. So what should we do? To have the environmental friendly energy, we have to move towards the green energy. Now these three power plants we had studied that these are the methods for the electricity generation. So we have to move towards the green energy. Now what is green energy? green energy is eco-friendly energy, or green energy is which do not lead to the pollution of environment. So this is called as eco-friendly energy or environment friendly energy or the green energy. Now, what are the other sources from where the electricity can be generated besides these three power plants which we had studied? Now there are electricity generation from water reservoir, wind, sunlight, biofuels. These are some of the examples from where the electric generation can take place. Now, all these processes are green energy because we had seen that in the three power plants where the fuels are used in the form of coal or natural gas or the radioactive elements, they lead to the pollution of the environment. They are leading to the adverse effects on the environment. So we have to move towards the green energy, that is water reservoir, as I said, wind, sunlight. Moreover, these sources, they do not lead to the environmental problems. So we should go towards the green energy and we should use these natural resources to generate the electricity so that it becomes eco-friendly or environment friendly, or it is called as green energy. Okay, students. So with this we finish with the power plant based on the natural gas, and also we had finished the topic electric energy generation and environment. What are the adverse effects of the power plants in generating the electricity? And we had also seen that there are other options like wind energy, the sunlight, or from energy from water reservoir, or using the biofuels also the electrical energy can be generated, and they do not have any adverse effect on the environment. So they are called as eco-friendly, environment friendly, or green energy. So we should move towards the green energy to save our mother earth, to save our nature mother earth from the pollution. Okay, so we will continue. So students, it's almost time up, and the remaining part of the lesson we are going to continue in the next science lecture. Students, yesterday onwards, that is from 5th July onwards, we have started with the live sessions, and yesterday itself, that is on Monday the 5th July, we had our Science and Technology section A and B live session. I and Poonam teacher, we both were there, and I hope you all have attended the lecture. Of course, we are having the attendance. We have noted down the presentee of the students. Every Monday, we will be having Science and Technology, both the sections together, live sessions as per your divisions. The timetable is already given to you. So, I hope you all are happy to have the interaction with us. At the same time, we are also very happy to interact with you, to directly talk to you students. And the same humble request, please remain at home. Do not roam out of your house. As you know, this is the pandemic time. You have to take utmost care of you, your family, your friends, your relatives. And for that, you have to stay home. So take care of yourself, students. See you next time. Thank you.